You think fancy desserts required hours in the kitchen? Think again. Black mothers in the 1960s mastered the art of sweet satisfaction with barely 5 minutes and whatever sat in the pantry. Let's dig into 30 easy desserts black mothers whipped up in the 1960s. Vanilla wafer banana pudding cups were the dessert that appeared at church suppers, family reunions, and Sunday dinners without fail. Black mothers layered vanilla wafers with sliced bananas and instant vanilla pudding in small cups or glasses, creating individual servings that looked fancy but took almost no time. The pudding was mixed with cold milk and whisked until thick, then spooned over the wafers while children waited impatiently for their share. As the dessert sat, the wafers softened and absorbed the creamy pudding, creating a texture that melted on the tongue. Mothers made these in assembly line fashion, filling a dozen cups in minutes while dinner finished cooking. The combination of sweet vanilla, fresh banana, and tender cookie satisfied every craving without heating up the kitchen. Jell-O with fruit cocktail was the jewel-toned dessert that sparkled on tables across black households throughout the 1960s. Mothers dissolved bright red, orange, or green gelatin powder in hot water, stirred in cold, then folded in canned fruit cocktail before chilling. The result was a wobbly, sweet treat that children found endlessly fascinating, watching the suspended fruit pieces float in the colorful gel. It required no cooking beyond boiling water and could be made the night before, freeing mothers for other tasks. The dessert appeared at potlucks in decorative molds, at home in simple bowls, and always drew smiles from children who loved its bouncy texture. Fruit cocktail stretched the dessert further, making one box of Jell-O feed the whole family with fruit in every spoonful. Graham cracker sandwiches were the secret weapon of busy mothers who needed something sweet in seconds flat. 2 graham cracker squares sandwiched a thick layer of frosting, peanut butter, or sweetened cream cheese, creating a handheld treat that satisfied without any cooking. Children came home from school to find these waiting on kitchen counters, the simple combination somehow tasting better than anything store-bought. Mothers kept graham crackers in the pantry specifically for these quick desserts, knowing they could assemble a batch while doing other tasks. The crackers provided just enough crunch against the creamy filling, and the whole thing could be eaten without plates or forks. Some mothers added chocolate drizzle or cinnamon to make them feel special. Instant chocolate pudding revolutionized weeknight desserts in black households during the 1960s, transforming 3 minutes of whisking into creamy satisfaction. Mothers poured the powder into cold milk, beat it with a hand mixer or whisk until thick, then spooned it into cups for eager children who could barely wait for it to set. The pudding could be eaten immediately while still soft or chilled until firm, depending on how patient the family felt. Some mothers topped it with Cool Whip, vanilla wafers, or crushed peanuts for texture. The convenience was revolutionary, allowing working mothers to provide homemade tasting dessert without spending precious evening hours in the kitchen. Children grew up believing their mothers made the best pudding, never realizing the magic came from a small box. Sugar bread was perhaps the simplest dessert in any black mother's repertoire, requiring nothing more than bread, butter, and white sugar. Soft white bread was spread with butter and sprinkled generously with sugar, then folded in half or eaten open-faced as an afternoon treat. Children requested it constantly, the combination of soft bread, rich butter, and sweet crunch satisfying something deep in their souls. Mothers made it when the pantry held little else, when children needed something sweet before dinner, or when there was simply no time for anything more elaborate. The dessert cost almost nothing and could be assembled in under a minute, making it the ultimate solution for busy households. Some mothers toasted the bread first for extra crunch, while others added a dash of cinnamon to make it feel fancy. Peanut butter balls were rolled by hand at kitchen tables where children helped shape the sticky mixture into bite-sized treats. Mothers mixed peanut butter with powdered sugar and a little butter until the dough held together, then let small hands roll it into balls that went straight into waiting mouths. The recipe required no cooking, no baking, and no special equipment beyond a mixing bowl and willing fingers. Some versions were rolled in crushed graham crackers, coconut, or cocoa powder for variety, each family developing their own signature style. The balls could be made ahead and stored in the refrigerator, providing grab-and-go sweetness throughout the week. Children learned to make these themselves, their first cooking lesson being something sweet and nearly impossible to mess up. Sliced bananas and cream appeared in bowls across Black households whenever ripe bananas sat on the counter and something sweet was needed fast. Mothers sliced bananas into rounds, covered them with heavy cream or evaporated milk, and sprinkled sugar over everything until the fruit glistened. The cream softened the banana slightly, while the sugar dissolved into sweet pools that collected at the bottom of the bowl. Children ate this for breakfast, after school, and as late-night snacks, the combination simple enough for anyone to prepare. Some mothers added a dash of vanilla extract or a sprinkle of nutmeg to elevate the humble ingredients. The dessert required no cooking and came together in less than 2 minutes, making it perfect for satisfying sudden sweet cravings. Cinnamon sugar toast was the dessert that doubled as breakfast, snack, and midnight treat in Black households throughout the 1960s. Bread was toasted until golden, spread thick with butter while still hot, then showered with cinnamon sugar that melted into fragrant sweetness. The butter had to be applied immediately, so it would soak into the warm bread and help the sugar mixture stick properly. Children stood by toasters waiting for their slices, the smell of cinnamon filling kitchens and signaling comfort. Mothers kept a jar of pre-mixed cinnamon sugar on the counter specifically for this purpose, the simple preparation requiring no thought or measurement. The toast could be cut into triangles for smaller children or served whole for those with bigger appetites, always delivering the same warm satisfaction. Icebox cake required no baking and became the impressive dessert that Black mothers pulled out when company was coming. Chocolate wafer cookies were layered with sweetened whipped cream in a loaf shape, then refrigerated overnight until the cookies softened into cake-like layers. The transformation seemed like magic to children who watched hard cookies become sliceable dessert through nothing but time and cold air. Mothers assembled these after dinner, letting them set while the family slept, ready to slice and serve the next day. The dessert looked far more complicated than it was, earning compliments that belied its simple 5-minute assembly time. Some mothers used graham crackers instead of chocolate wafers, creating a different but equally satisfying version of this no-bake wonder. Frozen Kool-Aid cups were summer salvation, providing icy sweetness when store-bought popsicles were too expensive for large families. Mothers mixed Kool-Aid with extra sugar and water, poured it into small paper cups, and froze them until solid with a plastic spoon stuck in for a handle. Children lined up at the freezer on hot afternoons, grabbing cups that stained their lips and tongues bright red, purple, or orange. The dessert cost pennies to make in large batches, allowing mothers to keep the freezer stocked throughout summer months. As the ice melted, children would drink the sweetened liquid from the bottom, extending the treat as long as possible. Some mothers added fruit pieces before freezing, creating fancier versions that still cost almost nothing to produce. Cool Whip fruit salad was the potluck staple that Black mothers carried to every gathering, its creamy sweetness hiding an assembly time of mere minutes. Canned fruit cocktail or mandarin oranges were drained and folded into Cool Whip, along with miniature marshmallows and sometimes shredded coconut. The mixture was stirred together in a large bowl, chilled briefly, and emerged looking like a complicated dessert that took real effort. Children loved the combination of fluffy cream, chewy marshmallows, and sweet fruit pieces in every spoonful. Mothers appreciated that it could be made the night before without separating or wilting, staying perfect until serving time. The dessert stretched to feed crowds. A single tub of Cool Whip transformed into enough sweetness for a dozen people or more. Saltine toffee was the addictive treat that Black mothers discovered could be made in minutes with crackers, butter, and brown sugar. Saltines were lined up on a baking sheet, covered with melted butter and brown sugar mixture, then topped with chocolate chips that melted from residual heat. The result was crunchy, salty sweet candy that disappeared as fast as mothers could make it, children sneaking pieces before they fully cooled. The recipe required only pantry staples and transformed ordinary crackers into something that tasted like expensive confection. Mothers made batches during holidays, storing them in tins where they rarely lasted more than a day. The combination of salt, butter, sugar, and chocolate hit every craving at once, proving fancy ingredients were never necessary for great dessert. Sweetened condensed milk fudge was the no-fail candy that Black mothers made when chocolate cravings struck and time was short. A can of sweetened condensed milk was heated with chocolate chips and butter until everything melted together into glossy smoothness. The mixture was poured into a buttered pan and chilled until firm enough to cut into squares that melted on the tongue. Children watched the transformation with amazement, unable to believe that 3 ingredients could create real fudge. Mothers made it for holidays, bake sales, and quiet evenings when something special was needed without much effort. The fudge kept well in the refrigerator, though it rarely lasted long enough to test its shelf life in most households. Bread pudding cups turned stale bread into individual desserts that tasted far fancier than their humble origins suggested. Mothers tore leftover bread into pieces, soaked them in a mixture of milk, egg, sugar, and vanilla, then spooned the mixture into cups. A few minutes under the broiler or in a hot oven transformed the soggy bread into custardy sweetness with golden tops. Children who would never eat stale bread plain devoured these cups, the cinnamon and sugar disguising yesterday's loaves completely. The dessert used ingredients that might otherwise be wasted, turning potential trash into treats that families requested again and again. Some mothers added raisins or a drizzle of caramel to make special occasion versions that still took only minutes to prepare. Coconut balls required no baking and came together at kitchen tables where mothers and children worked side by side. Sweetened condensed milk was mixed with powdered sugar and shredded coconut until a sticky dough formed that could be rolled into balls. The balls were sometimes dipped in melted chocolate or rolled in more coconut, creating treats that looked like they came from a candy shop. Children loved helping shape the mixture, their small hands covered in sticky sweetness as they worked. The coconut balls could be made in large batches and stored in the refrigerator, providing grab-and-go treats throughout the week. Mothers brought them to church functions and neighborhood gatherings, always earning compliments for what appeared to be complicated confections. Sex 1.0. Chocolate gravy on biscuits was the Southern breakfast that doubled as dessert in Black households, where sweet and savory blurred together. Mothers whisked cocoa powder, sugar, flour, and milk in a saucepan until the mixture thickened in the pourable chocolate that coated the back of a spoon. Hot biscuits were split open and drenched in the warm gravy, creating a combination that satisfied both breakfast hunger and dessert cravings. Children requested it for special mornings, birthdays, and any day they could convince their mothers to make something sweet before school. The gravy came together in under 5 minutes, using pantry staples that were always on hand. Though it seems unusual to those who did not grow up with it, chocolate gravy remains a beloved memory of Southern Black childhood. Butterscotch pudding parfaits were layered in tall glasses to create desserts that looked like restaurant presentations. Mothers made instant butterscotch pudding, then layered it with Cool Whip and crushed vanilla wafers in clear glasses that showed off the striped effect. Children watched the assembly with anticipation, knowing that digging through the layers with a long spoon was half the fun. The parfaits could be made ahead for parties or assembled quickly for weeknight treats, their impressive appearance belying the simple preparation. Some mothers added a drizzle of chocolate sauce or a maraschino cherry on top for extra flair. The dessert proved that presentation mattered, transforming instant pudding into something that felt genuinely special. No-bake cookies were dropped onto wax paper in busy kitchens, where Black mothers needed chocolate and peanut butter satisfaction without heating up the oven. Cocoa, sugar, butter, and milk were boiled briefly. Then oats and peanut butter were stirred in before the mixture was spooned into mounds. The cookies set as they cooled, their fudgy texture unlike any baked cookie, but equally satisfying to chocolate-loving children. Mothers made batches on hot summer days when turning on the oven was unthinkable, but sweet cravings still needed addressing. The cookies could be customized with coconut, nuts, or extra peanut butter depending on family preferences. They kept well in the refrigerator, though most batches disappeared within hours of being made. Peach Melba cups brought restaurant elegance to Black kitchens, using nothing more than canned peaches and vanilla ice cream. Mothers scooped ice cream into cups, topped it with drained peach halves, and drizzled raspberry jam thin with a little water over everything. The combination of cold cream, sweet peaches, and tart berries created something that tasted sophisticated but took under 2 minutes to assemble. Children felt special eating dessert that looked like something from a fancy menu, not realizing how simple the preparation had been. The cups appeared at dinner parties and Sunday suppers, always earning compliments from guests who assumed more effort was involved. Canned peaches made the dessert possible year-round, bringing summer sweetness to winter tables. Grape jelly toast was the purple-stained snack that Black children devoured after school throughout the 1960s. Bread was toasted until golden, spread thick with butter, then covered with a generous layer of sweet grape jelly that melted slightly from the warmth. The combination of crispy toast, rich butter, and fruity sweetness satisfied hunger and sweet cravings simultaneously. Mothers kept grape jelly stocked specifically because children consumed it so quickly, spreading it on everything from toast to biscuits. The snack required no cooking beyond toasting and could be made by children old enough to operate a toaster safely. Grape jelly toast represents the simplicity of 1960s childhood desserts, when sweetness came from basic pantry staples combined with love. Honey graham crackers and milk was the bedtime snack that settled children down and filled their bellies before sleep. Graham crackers were broken into pieces and dropped into bowls, then covered with cold milk until they softened into sweet mush. Children ate the mixture with spoons, the honey-flavored crackers dissolving into the milk and creating a simple porridge-like dessert. Mothers served this when dinner had been light or when children complained of hunger after brushing their teeth. The combination required no preparation beyond pouring and was gentle enough to eat before bed without causing upset stomachs. Some children preferred their crackers crunchy and ate quickly, while others waited until everything turned soft. The snack cost almost nothing and used ingredients always present in pantries. Applesauce cups were the instant dessert that Black mothers kept stocked in refrigerators for moments when something sweet was needed immediately. Store-bought applesauce was spooned into small cups or bowls, sometimes sprinkled with cinnamon or topped with a dollop of Cool Whip for fanciness. Children ate it plain after school, alongside sandwiches at lunch, or as a light dessert when heavier sweets would be too much. Mothers appreciated that applesauce counted as fruit while still satisfying sweet cravings, making it acceptable for any time of day. The cups could be packed in lunches, served at the table, or handed to children heading out to play without worry about mess. Applesauce represented the convenience that 1960s mothers embraced. Ready-made sweetness that required absolutely no effort beyond opening a jar. Frozen banana pops were the homemade treat that Black mothers created when ice cream money was tight, but frozen sweetness was still needed. Bananas were peeled, inserted with popsicle sticks, and frozen until solid, sometimes dipped in chocolate or rolled in crushed peanuts before freezing. Children pulled them from the freezer on hot days, the frozen fruit providing creamy sweetness that rivaled any store-bought ice cream bar. Mothers made batches when bananas started to spot, transforming fruit that might otherwise be wasted into treats children begged for. The pops could be customized with different coatings or eaten plain, their natural banana flavors sweet enough without any additions. Frozen banana pops taught children that homemade treats could be just as satisfying as anything from the ice cream truck. Marshmallow treats were pressed into pans and cut into squares in kitchens where Black mothers needed dessert for crowds without any baking. Butter was melted with marshmallows until the mixture turned smooth and stretchy. Then crispy rice cereal was stirred in quickly before everything cooled. The mixture was pressed into buttered pans and cut into squares that held together perfectly for serving or packing. Children hovered nearby waiting for scraps, eating the sticky bits that clung to spoons and the edges of pans. Mothers made these for school bake sales, church gatherings, and birthday parties, their simplicity hiding how beloved they were. The treats could be made in under 10 minutes and served immediately, proving that great desserts needed neither ovens nor complicated recipes. Dream Whip mousse was the light and fluffy dessert that Black mothers whipped up when something airy and sweet was needed fast. The powdered mix was beaten with cold milk until it formed stiff peaks that held their shape in dessert glasses. Some mothers folded in instant pudding powder for flavor, creating chocolate, vanilla, or butterscotch versions that tasted like fancy restaurant mousses. Children loved the cloud-like texture that dissolved on their tongues, so different from heavy cakes or dense puddings. The dessert could be made ahead and chilled, holding its shape for hours without deflating or weeping. Dream Whip mousse proved that impressive desserts could come from simple boxed ingredients, requiring only a mixer and a few minutes of effort. Canned pear halves with cheese was the sophisticated-seeming dessert that Black mothers served when company came calling unexpectedly. Pear halves were drained from their syrup and placed on plates, their hollow centers filled with cream cheese or topped with shredded cheddar. The combination of sweet fruit and savory cheese created something that tasted more European than American, impressing guests who did not realize how simple it was. Mothers kept canned pears in the pantry specifically for these moments, knowing they could produce elegant dessert in under 2 minutes. Children found the combination strange at first, but often grew to love the contrast of flavors and textures. Canned pear halves with cheese represented the creativity of making fancy food from humble pantry staples. Quick rice pudding transformed leftover rice into creamy dessert that tasted like it had simmered for hours. Cold rice was stirred with milk, sugar, vanilla, and a beaten egg, then heated briefly until the mixture thickened into spoonable pudding. Mothers added raisins, cinnamon, or nutmeg depending on family preferences, each household developing signature versions of this simple dish. Children who refused plain rice at dinner eagerly ate it sweetened and creamy for dessert, never connecting the two forms. The pudding could be served warm or chilled, adapting to seasons and preferences without any change in preparation. Quick rice pudding showed how 1960s mothers wasted nothing, transforming yesterday's side dish into tonight's sweet ending. Brown sugar fudge was the candy that black mothers made when white sugar ran low, but something sweet was still needed for special occasions. Brown sugar was cooked with butter and milk until it reached softball stage, then beaten until it turned thick and creamy enough to pour. The resulting fudge had a deeper, more caramel-like flavor than traditional chocolate versions, its molasses undertones making it distinctively southern. Mothers poured it into buttered pans and cut it into squares once firm, the candy disappearing as fast as it could be made. The fudge required careful attention during cooking, but rewarded patience with rich, melt-in-your-mouth sweetness. Brown sugar fudge proved that limitation bred creativity in kitchens where making do was simply how life worked. Angel food cake with berries was the light dessert that black mothers served when something sweet but not heavy was needed after big meals. Store-bought angel food cake was sliced and topped with fresh or thawed frozen berries and a dollop of whipped cream. The Airy cake soaked up berry juices, becoming even more flavorful as it sat on plates waiting to be eaten. Mothers kept angel food cakes on hand during summer months, knowing they could create beautiful desserts in seconds with whatever fruit was available. Children loved the combination of fluffy cake, tart berries, and sweet cream, each bite different depending on the ratio of elements. The dessert looked impressive enough for company while requiring absolutely no cooking or baking at home. Chocolate milk float was the after-school treat that turned ordinary chocolate milk into something resembling an ice cream shop creation. Cold chocolate milk was poured into tall glasses, then scoops of vanilla ice cream were added until they bobbed on the surface. Children drank the chocolate milk through straws while spooning ice cream into their mouths, the two elements combining into creamy chocolate perfection. Mothers made these on hot afternoons when children needed cooling down and cheering up simultaneously. The float required only 2 ingredients and less than a minute to assemble, yet it felt like a special occasion every time. Chocolate milk floats represented the simple genius of 1960s desserts, combining everyday ingredients into something that felt like pure celebration.
Hominy pancakes were another clever way families stretched resources into filling meals. Hominy, boiled corn kernels treated with lye, was folded into simple flour batter and fried on a hot griddle until crisp on the edges. The result was a pancake that was hearty, chewy, and rich in flavor. Families leaned on this dish because hominy was inexpensive, filling, and often available in bulk. These pancakes were served plain or topped with syrup, molasses, or even just butter when sugar was scarce. Children enjoyed the slightly nutty texture, while adults appreciated that it carried them through long hours of work. Hominy pancakes were tied to heritage too, with roots reaching back to Native American food traditions that influenced Southern cooking. They were a reminder of resilience and cultural continuity, showing how simple staples could be reinvented to meet new needs. Hominy pancakes filled stomachs, but they also filled mornings with the comfort of tradition and the creativity of making do. Cream cheese and olive pinwheels, made with softened cream cheese mixed with chopped green olives and rolled in tortillas, created tangy, savory bites. Children found intriguing. Aunties would soften cream cheese and mix it with finely chopped green olives, pimentos, and sometimes a touch of garlic powder, spreading the mixture evenly on flour tortillas. The tortillas were rolled tightly, wrapped in plastic, and refrigerated for hours to firm up before being sliced into colorful pinwheels. Each slice revealed swirls of white cream cheese dotted with green olive pieces, creating visual appeal that drew children's attention. In 1970s, Black households, these pinwheels represented creative entertaining, showing how simple ingredients could become elegant appetizers. Children loved them because they were fun to look at, easy to eat, and introduced them to olives in a creamy format that made the vegetables more approachable and less intimidating than eating them whole. It allowed. Everyone from the youngest child to the oldest grandparent took comfort in its familiar taste. Long after the holidays, people remembered how rice pudding made the house smell like cinnamon and hope. Sweet rice pudding with raisins tasted like warmth, resourcefulness, and Christmas sweetness created from almost nothing. Chicken and dumplings holiday pot was the dish that wrapped Christmas in warmth, especially in homes where money was tight and hearts were full. Mothers simmered chicken pieces, sometimes wings, backs, or necks, in a large pot with onions and celery until the broth grew rich and fragrant. Then came the dumplings, soft dough dropped by spoonful into the bubbling pot. They puffed as they cooked, soaking up all the flavor until each dumpling tasted buttery, tender, and soothing. Children loved lifting the lid to watch the dumplings dance in the steam, begging for the first bowl even when they knew it needed more time. When served, the dish felt like a warm blanket in food form, thick, hearty, and perfect for winter nights. Mothers made chicken and dumplings because it stretched modest ingredients into enough to feed a crowd, leaving no one hungry. Each spoonful tasted like comfort built through slow cooking and patient hands. Even years later, adults remembered the steam fogging the windows, the sound of the bubbling pot, and the quiet moment when the first dumpling broke open on their tongue. Chicken and dumplings tasted like holiday love large enough to fill a room. Fried okra rounds served with ranch dressing were crispy, crunchy appetizers that introduced children to vegetables in ways that made them forget they were eating something healthy, the golden coating making every bite feel like a treat. Mothers would slice fresh okra into thick rounds, coating them first in buttermilk that helped breading adhere, then dredging them in seasoned cornmeal mixed with flour, salt, pepper, and garlic powder. The okra rounds were dropped into hot oil where they bubbled and crisped, the cornmeal coating turning golden brown while the okra inside stayed tender. Once drained on paper towels and sprinkled with extra salt while still hot, the okra was piled into serving bowls and placed near small dishes of ranch dressing that children dunked them into with enthusiasm. In Black households during the 1970s, fried okra represented Southern tradition meeting holiday hospitality. Children loved fried okra because it felt like eating fried chicken in vegetable form. Wild muscadine grape jam brought the late summer woods to the breakfast table in a deep purple shine. Children and parents walked along fence lines and wooded edges with baskets in hand, searching for the thick-skinned grapes that thrived in southern heat. Once gathered, the fruit was boiled gently until the skins burst and the pulp softened, filling kitchens with a fragrance that hinted at honey and earth. The juice was strained and mixed with sugar, then cooked again until it thickened into a jam rich enough to spread over biscuits or stir into morning porridge. Families prized each jar, knowing that muscadines grew wild and free, needing only careful hands and patience to become something sweet. In some towns, church groups organized picking days, turning the harvest into a social event where songs and laughter echoed through the vines. Today, supermarket grapes have replaced the wild hunt, and store-bought jams lack the musky depth of fruit ripened under southern sun, but memories of purple-stained fingers still linger in many hearts. Turkey neck gravy over rice was the thrifty holiday dish that tasted richer than anything store-bought, proving that skill mattered more than ingredients. Mothers simmered turkey necks with onions, celery, and spices until the broth turned deep and flavorful, stirring occasionally while the aroma drifted through the house. Once the meat softened, they thickened the broth into gravy and poured it generously over rice, creating a meal that felt comforting and complete even on a tight budget. Children scraped their plates clean, knowing this was one of those dishes that only appeared on special days. The gravy seeped into every grain of rice, turning something simple into something layered and rich. Turkey neck gravy tasted like resourcefulness, richness, and holiday care made from simple ingredients handled with love. Fried fatback and biscuits were the workers' feast, the kind of meal that tasted like a well-earned rest. Strips of salted fatback were fried until they turned crisp and golden, their grease saved to brush over hot biscuits straight from the oven. The smell alone was enough to lift tired spirits after long days in the field or factory. The biscuits, tender and flaky, soaked up the salty richness until every bite melted together in perfect balance. It wasn't fancy, but it was fulfilling, the kind of food that made a person feel whole again. Children would fight over the last piece while parents smiled, knowing there was pride in providing something so simple yet satisfying. Fried fatback and biscuits told a story of work, faith, and endurance, where flavor was wrung from every bit of effort. It was a reminder that food didn't need luxury to carry love. Each bite crackled with warmth and memory, proof that comfort could be built from the humblest pantry. Fried fatback and biscuits were more than breakfast. They were a quiet victory on every plate. Crab cakes formed into mini patties were seafood luxury that made Thanksgiving feel extra special. The sweet crab meat mixed with breadcrumbs and seasonings before being pan-fried until golden. Grandmothers would pick through cans of crab meat to remove any shell pieces, then gently fold the delicate meat with beaten eggs, breadcrumbs, mayonnaise, mustard, Old Bay seasoning, and sometimes diced bell peppers. The mixture was formed into small patties, each one handled carefully, then refrigerated briefly to help them hold together during cooking. The crab cakes were pan-fried in butter until golden brown on both sides, the exterior developing a crispy crust while the interior stayed moist and packed with sweet crab flavor. In the 1970s, Black households, crab cakes represented coastal sophistication, bringing seafood traditions to holiday tables and elevating the appetizer spread. Children loved mini crab cakes because they felt fancy, tasted sweet rather than fishy, and came in sizes perfect for young appetites. Christmas morning grits with butter and sugar were the bowl children asked for, even before racing to open presents. Mothers cooked the grits low and slow, stirring them until the mixture thickened into something warm, smooth, and comforting. A spoonful of butter melted across the top, followed by just enough sugar to make the bowl taste sweet without overwhelming the grain. Children loved holding the warm bowl in their hands, steam rising into sleepy faces as excitement buzzed around them. This breakfast grounded the morning in warmth and love before the chaos of wrapping paper and gifts. It was simple, inexpensive, and dependable. The kind of dish that reassured mothers that everyone began the day nourished. Even as adults, people remembered the quiet moment before celebration, sitting at the kitchen table with a bowl of sweet grits. Christmas morning grits tasted like comfort and tradition waiting beneath the tree. Chicken salad stuffed in cherry tomatoes created colorful, bite-sized portions that children eagerly grabbed. The cool, creamy chicken salad contrasting with the fresh, slightly tart tomato cups that held everything together. Aunties would hollow out cherry tomatoes using small spoons or melon ballers, creating little edible bowls that were functional and beautiful when arranged on serving platters. The chicken salad was made from finely chopped cooked chicken mixed with mayonnaise, diced celery, sweet pickle relish, and seasonings. The mixture kept cold until serving time. Each hollowed tomato was filled with a generous spoonful of chicken salad, mounded slightly on top for visual appeal. In 1970s Black households, these stuffed tomatoes represented creativity and presentation, transforming simple ingredients into appetizers that looked impressive enough for special occasions. Children loved them because they were perfectly portioned, colorful, and combined familiar flavors in a fun format. Leftover grit cakes turned yesterday's breakfast into today's miracle. When the morning rush was over and the pot of grits sat cold, mothers would scoop what was left into a pan, chill it, then slice it thick by dawn. Those slices were fried in bacon grease until crisp outside and tender within. What started as thrift became tradition, proof that waste had no place in a careful home. Served with eggs or syrup, grit cakes were hearty, filling, and familiar. Their golden crust and soft middle carried the taste of patience and practicality. No one complained about eating them again. In fact, most looked forward to it. They were the kind of food that spoke softly of care, of making something new without needing anything extra. Even the smell of frying grits could bring everyone to the table fast. Leftover grit cakes were a reminder that the best meals are often the simplest ones, built from what was already enough. Fried catfish. Christmas Eve dinner was a Southern tradition children counted down to every year, circling the kitchen the moment they heard oil popping in the pan. Mothers dredged the fillets in seasoned cornmeal, shaking off the excess before laying them gently in hot oil that smelled like celebration. The fish crisped quickly, turning golden and fragrant, filling the house with a scent so comforting it felt like part of the season itself. Children crowded around the table grabbing for the crispiest pieces, blowing on their fingers when the fish was still too hot to touch but refusing to wait. It was a meal that felt festive without needing many ingredients, one that tasted like Southern pride and holiday joy served with laughter. Fried catfish tasted like tradition celebration and a Christmas Eve that always felt special, the kind of night that lived in memory long after childhood ended. Stuffed celery with cream cheese and pimento created colorful boats that children picked up by their crunchy handles, the creamy filling contrasting perfectly with the crisp, fresh vegetable that provided texture amidst holiday indulgence. Mothers would wash and trim celery stalks, cutting them into 3-inch lengths before drying them thoroughly and arranging them on serving platters like little canoes. The filling was made by beating cream cheese until fluffy, then folding in diced pimentos, mayonnaise, and seasonings like garlic powder, onion powder, and black pepper. The cream cheese mixture was spread generously into each celery groove, mounded slightly and sometimes garnished with paprika, chopped olives, or crispy bacon. In Black households during the 1970s, stuffed celery represented an attempt to include something fresh among heavier holiday offerings. Children loved them because the cream cheese provided richness while celery added refreshing crunch. Salmon croquettes were the breakfast of ingenuity, born from tin cans and imagination. Canned salmon was mixed with onions, cornmeal, and a bit of egg shaped into patties and fried until crisp. The smell filled the house like a promise that the day would be all right. They were crunchy on the outside, tender inside, and full of flavor that reached far beyond their humble ingredients. The sizzle of the skillet was music, the sound of a meal stretching to feed everyone. Eaten with grits, biscuits, or a little mustard on the side, they turned a simple morning into something memorable. These croquettes were survival disguised as comfort food, proof that scarcity never stopped creativity. They were hearty enough for men heading to work and tasty enough to make children smile. The golden crust caught the light just right, shining like victory in the pan. Salmon croquettes were a triumph of spirit and taste over circumstance. Salmon croquettes with lemon were the Christmas treat families made when fresh fish was far too expensive, proving once again that Black mothers in the 1960s could create celebration from whatever they had. Canned salmon was cheap, dependable, and always waiting in the cupboard for special meals. Mothers mixed it with breadcrumbs, onions, eggs, and seasoning, shaping patties that sizzled the moment they hit the hot skillet. The outside crisped into a golden shell while the inside stayed tender, savory, and full of comforting flavor. A squeeze of lemon over the top made the croquettes taste bright and festive, like something far fancier than their ingredients suggested. Children begged for them as soon as the smell filled the house, crowding the kitchen doorway and asking how much longer until they were ready. These croquettes felt like a gift, especially when paired with rice, grits, greens, or dressing. Mothers loved the dish because it stretched a single can into enough patties for several children, filling stomachs without draining the holiday budget. Every bite tasted like care seasoned with creativity. Years later, adults remembered the crisp edges, the steam rising from the center, and the little splash of lemon that made the flavors sing. Salmon croquettes with lemon tasted like celebration crafted from skill, not cost. Cheese straws made from sharp cheddar and cayenne pepper were crispy, addictive sticks that disappeared from serving bowls almost as quickly as they were refilled, their orange gold color and spicy kick making them irresistible. Grandmothers would grate blocks of sharp cheddar by hand, mixing it with softened butter, flour, cayenne pepper, and salt until the dough came together, then pressing it through cookie presses or rolling it into long ropes before slicing. The cheese straws baked until crispy and slightly browned at the edges, filling kitchens with the sharp, tangy aroma of melting cheese mixed with subtle heat. Once cooled, they were stored in tins, maintaining crispness for days. In 1970s, Black households, cheese straws represented Southern tradition, recipes passed down through generations with each family adding their signature touch, extra cayenne, paprika, or pecans. Sausage balls made with breakfast sausage, cheese, and biscuit mix, baked into savory spheres that children popped into their mouths like candy, their crispy exteriors giving way to soft, cheesy, slightly spicy interiors. Mothers would combine raw breakfast sausage with shredded sharp cheddar cheese and dry biscuit mix, kneading everything together until well combined. The mixture was then rolled into balls about an inch in diameter, arranged on baking sheets with space between them, and baked until golden brown. As they baked, the fat from the sausage rendered while the cheese melted, creating savory, flavorful bites that were crispy outside and tender inside. In the 1970s, Black households, sausage balls represented easy entertaining, a recipe that could be made ahead. Children loved sausage balls because they were perfectly portioned, required no utensils, and delivered breakfast flavors in snackable form.
Which quick dessert takes you back to your mother's kitchen? Drop your sweetest memory in the comments. Hit like and subscribe for more forgotten treats from Black family tables.